Hey, what's up guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. A Return to School, Tensura x COTE, by Asuryii. Chapter 3, A Deal Struck. With coercion? I may have gotten too much attention. Rimuru. I cannot have you in the 4th generation. I fucked up. I have no choice but to try and turn this around. I guess beating every single instructor senselessly was a bit much. In my defense, they did punish Kiyotaka for no reason. Time to play all the cards I have, well, not all of them. Then put me under instruction solo and change my curriculum. The subjects taught in my generation are far too easy, and I have an interest in business development and development. You could just make me take my courses as they are now and add in a hybrid of the 5th generation curriculum. He looked at me with a quizzical look. I shouldn't have information on the 5th generation, but I did. I said the hardest curriculum in the White Room was easy, which probably doesn't sit well with him. I am very aware that he dislikes the fact that I am becoming too much of an unpredictable and uncontrollable piece. You want to get back into politics, as evident by the instructor's conversations. The White Room is a way for you to gain immense backing should it succeed. Despite this, the White Room alone won't be enough of an achievement even should it succeed once. A single piece of evidence that the White Room works isn't enough. You need more to get the support of people with large amounts of power. So why not use me to make a new piece of support? Have me go out into the world and create a business while I am taking my courses in the White Room. He looked at me with a blank, somewhat lost stare. He fully hadn't expected this. This way you get more financial support, more backers and connections through the business I cultivate, and you get to focus more resources onto the others in the 4th generation. You get to effectively test human limits even further, get more support, and I myself satiate my boredom. I gave him a small half-smile with my eyes closed, very reminiscent of a conman smile. I could almost feel the shivers run down his spine. Just like the day he realized I still possessed the ability to smile on demand, unlike everyone else in my generation. He let out a heavy sigh as I began to look him dead in the eyes. It almost made me laugh. A man known for breaking men's spirits with his gaze looked done with everything in front of an 8-year-old. He rubbed his temples before he looked at me as if he had aged 50 years. Rimuru. You are my property, the same as Kiyotaka. Why would I bother playing your foolish games? Cause you certainly don't want to die. Wouldn't that be right? I'd be so embarrassed to have spent so long trying to return to the world of politics and in the White Room only to be murdered by one of my own subjects, in my own facility. After all, considering the fact that I have no issues with going through with it. So look at it this way. I sighed deeply as I glared at Asuryii, my adoptive father and the head of the White Room. I held back nothing in this glare. Asuryii could only shudder as sweat droplets trickled down his face, being held under my glare. I was winning and I wasn't even close to being finished. So your options right now are live or die, you decide. As I gave him his options, I let bloodlust and pure unfiltered killing intent fill my gaze as I glared at Asuryii, looking down on him. I may have been shorter than him, but it was clear as my eyes' gaze befell him that he was the prey and I was the predator. At this moment your life is in my hands. I am fully confident that I can kill you before someone hears you call for help. My voice was empty, entirely devoid of any traceable hint of emotion, my gaze unfaltering and unwavering, and to add to it, he knew I was entirely serious. The reason he knew I was serious was because not even 5 minutes ago I beat every instructor senselessly and killed one of them. My hands were still dripping wet with his blood until I entered his office. I almost felt I didn't go far enough looking back on it now. There were only 4 of us left in our generation. Kiyotaka, Shuru, Yuki, and I had been helping Shuru and Yuki, so they had grown faster, but they were reaching their limits. I already talked to Yuki about it. She is aware that she is at her limit, but she wants to stay for Kiyotaka. She, despite being in the White Room, developed feelings for Kiyo without even realizing. She truly was admirable. The only person in our generation to genuinely smile, if only a few times, besides me. Though my case was different as I felt no burden during training. Shuru, I think, plans to drop out of his own accord soon. If anything, now is the best time for me to make this man give me access to the outside world. Possibly I can convince them to go to ANHS and they may be able to help me give Kiyotaka his emotions back. Knowing Kiyotaka, he won't drop out, and this man can't just get rid of me no matter how much he wants to. I am invaluable after all, despite my uncontrollability. To top it off, it's becoming clear the White Room has a few traitors in it. In a few years I see this facility needing to go out of operation temporarily. I may or may not have made this worse. Fine. You will gain access to the outside world. It will be a weekly occurrence. You will spend 1 week in the White Room and 1 out. You will also take all the extra curriculum from the 5th generation on top of your usual 4th generation curriculum. He took a deep breath as I finally released him from my gaze. Finally catching his breath after a minute or so, he sighed heavily. I have never once in my life felt so trapped, unlike how it feels in conversation with you. No, to call this conversation would be a disservice. This was just you giving me options without actually having any option. Who could have taught you to be like this? You did. I am wholly aware it was rhetorical, but take responsibility, it's your own fault. You should probably find a family that will take me in under second parent adoption. I looked at him unamused as he replied with a look nearly mirroring my own. Well, sort of. Who even taught you this? Don't answer that. I am very aware that you read it in a book. I really need to go through the books in that damn library. Hey. I looked at him smugly as he more than likely failed to realize I had read every single book in that library, the same as Kiyotaka. So anything I know he definitely knows. I could almost feel Seal wearing a prideful look as she recognized the look on my face. Well, this agreement with Rimuru has risks, but the benefits outweigh the risks. I also just so happen to have a family in mind to take the role Rimuru spoke of. At the last meeting with the sponsors, I heard they lost their son and wanted to adopt a talented young man to be their successor. They aren't massive at the moment, but Rimuru can change that. I don't feel any doubts. I can almost tell what he's thinking about. He has a family in mind to adopt me. Seal really helped out with this plan, though it did cost me a favor. Veldanava, I swear I am going to beat your ass after all this is done. You will train physically at the same time as the remaining members of the 4th generation while you're in the White Room. Your studies, on the other hand, will be a hybrid of 4th and 5th generation work. This means you will have no free time while in the White Room. Once the family is found, you will be sent out and required to keep up a regime while out of the White Room. I was given the details on my schedule going forward. I would be up at 5:45 a.m. and I would be allowed to go to bed at the earliest 12:30. I knew I would be able to keep up with the regime easily. To make things clear, I would no longer be called a 4th generation student, I would be the sole 4th generation subject. His naming sense is really shit. The 4th gen kids knew me, but I needed to be introduced to the 5th generation as they focused on communication and collaboration. I was told to go get acquainted with the 5th generation students since I would be working with them partially. The instructors were informed beforehand and I was instructed to introduce myself as nth generation Rimuru. My age, prior achievements, or my experience in the 4th generation. I was informed that they had no clue of the true heights of the 4th generation, i.e. Kiyotaka, and my own achievements. Though they knew Kiyotaka existed, and somehow, because the instructors were ordered to never talk about me outside of reports, they didn't know of me. I didn't believe it, but I went along with it. I have a feeling, considering the difficulty difference between the 4th and 5th generation, someone would act arrogantly and try to suppress me as soon as I entered the cafeteria to introduce myself before interlocution training started. It was absurd. The 4th generation was LVL 10, while the 5th was LVL 4. The hypothetical LVL of my generation was 11 for the sole fact that I was taking 2 different curricula at the same time. Upon reaching the cafeteria, I noticed one thing. The 5th generation cafeteria was louder, much louder than the 4th. I suppose the difference in our workload and its content makes the difference. We were never promoted to communicate, but to purely rely on ourselves, pure and absolute individualism. Based on what I hear and feel, there are 68 subjects in here. The topic of conversation is relatively open, but 2 names come often, Ichika and Takuya. I opened the door and the attention of the room was drawn to me almost immediately. The casual chatter instantly stopped, as if they had never been in conversation to begin with. An instructor came in through the door a moment later and signaled to me to move forward with my introduction. Hello everyone of the 5th generation. My name is Rimuru. I will be interacting with a lot of you for some time going forward. I am a subject of the nth generation, and as such I cannot answer any questions related to my generation's work. I hope we can all get along swelly. The room was quiet for a few moments as everyone was confused by my words. They were most likely questioning if this was an exam or if I was a proctor's assistant being used to gauge their ability to move on inside a sudden inexplicable event. I let out a deep sigh as I realized that most of them felt more interested in analyzing the possibilities of this situation. They may be a generation based on communication and collaboration, but that leads them to not taking anything at face value. This was a situation where no matter how far you analyzed, you would gain no answers or come closer to the true nature of this situation. It was sad after all the information they needed was given to them right out the gate. They had my name, the fact I would be with them part of the time, my generation despite it being confusing, and a clarification that I wouldn't be divulging my generation's work. Well, it looks like they need a little push to do anything, and the instructor is only here to observe how they react in person and see what I do. Taking a deep breath and letting out another sigh, I let all my negative emotions and experiences flood into my eyes. It took a moment, but in that moment my eyes became unbearably heavy. My radiant, glowing, soul-piercing golden eyes became entirely devoid of light, leaving a cold golden abyss that drew you into its maw deeper and deeper till you fell into insanity. Millions of lifetimes and untold eons of living and experiencing new things, both good and bad, left me with a gaze that was entirely unparalleled in any and every regard. I could confidently say there was no being alive that held a gaze anywhere near mine. The fifth-generation students shivered slightly as if the room had grown colder by many degrees. Some looked like they had seen and experienced the depths of hell and back. The room did start to smell as some kids soiled themselves. How disappointing. Truly disappointing. What a waste of time the fifth generation was. I expected this outcome. I could only hope someone would be too emotional and impulsive and make an irresponsible action. I got what I wanted as I heard someone get up from their seat and run towards me. Gotcha. In an instant the child was upon me. From the weight of their footsteps it was very clearly a male. Not even bothering to pay mind, I acted as if I was simply leaving the room, disappointed as I was mere moments prior. 5 meters. 3 meters. 2 meters. The boy swung at the back of my head towards my upper cervical spine, the point where the spine and skull connect to one another. He fully intended on paralyzing me. Mere moments before his fist was to contact me, I tilted my body partially toward the right. The boy in his impulsiveness failed to account for the possibility of me dodging. This, along with the fact that I had far more experience fighting than him, made the gap he opened insurmountable. In an instant before the boy could perceive a single thing, he was on the floor, knocked out cold. I had taken advantage of the small rotation I made when dodging his punch. I swung my right leg and performed a roundhouse kick. I leaned downward slightly as I kicked towards the boy and twisted my body over, putting some more of my strength into the kick. The room was quiet as I wore an impassive, bored look. I wasn't glaring anymore. My eyes just displayed boredom and disappointment. It took a moment before someone spoke out. It was a girl with magenta-colored hair. His left foot never came off the ground. It only spun, the balls of his foot remaining in almost the same position. But he wasn't even looking in his direction, and he knocked Takuya out with one kick. Well, I did kick him directly in the temple. Oh wait, I kicked him in the temple. Instructor, would you mind dealing with Takuya here and taking him to be examined? I kicked him directly in the temple. I put my all into it. You may want to hurry so he doesn't get permanent damage. I was well aware the kid would be fine. I needed to get him out as fast as possible though, so others would calm down and we could talk. The magenta-haired girl caught my attention. She seemed to be more analytical than the rest. The kid, who I suppose is Takuya, seems to be stuck in a complicated situation with a superiority complex and an inferiority complex. My words and actions must have pushed his buttons too far. He hasn't gained sufficient control over his emotions yet, so he is impulsive due to his complexes clashing. Just as the instructors removed Takuya from the cafeteria, I approached the magenta-haired girl. Hey, you're interesting. What's your name? Ikika. She sounded hesitant when she spoke to me. She sounded as if she was worried I would attack her. But behind that hesitance was curiosity and admiration. I like curious people. They remind me of Kiyotaka. He is always curious. Kiyotaka's curiosity is where the professor messed up big time. Kiyotaka and I will still interact even after I go to the outside world. I intend to make his curiosity immeasurable, so the moment he goes out he will begin planning to escape. I'll help him secure a normal life, even if only for a time, and then once it's about to end I will ask him a simple question. Should the white room go up in flames, or do you wish to return? Don't worry, I have no intentions of coming after you or anyone in fact. I just wanted to test how well you all learn to control your emotions and impulses, that's all. But I must applaud you, Aikika. Rather than acting on impulse, you calmly analyzed the situation and tried to secure information. My words were nothing but the truth. One so sweet that it felt as if it was filled with lies. A small embarrassed smile formed on her face, and I gained confirmation on one particular detail. The fifth generation had children who still displayed signs of emotion. The difference was in the emotions they felt. It looks as if they either feel admiration or hatred. This might be due to the instructors not giving compliments and only saying demoralizing words. It wouldn't surprise me if the instructor compared the kids here to Kiyotaka and the fourth generation. If that is the case, I can see them looking at Kyo in one of two ways. With admiration and reverence, or hatred and envy. I don't see them being neutral and uncaring. The existence of one extreme gives birth to the other. It also effectively destroys the idea of neutrality, as you are feasted on by starving wolves forced to take a side regardless of your stance. Well, it's good to hear you have no intentions of harming us in any way, and thank you for the compliment. So Rimuru, what should I refer to you as? You may call me as you like. I have no particular preference. But I will say, if you want more compliments, just continue to impress me. I have no intentions of not applauding growth, though on the other hand I do also criticize and usher you in the right direction when you're not growing. So please continue to impress me. The room was quiet for a second as many kids stared at me wide-eyed due to my words. It seems I was already perceived in a seniority manner after my last actions and words. This would work to build some confidence and self-esteem in the kids, as they know as long as I am here they can get compliments and gain insight into their mistakes. So Rimuru Senpai, do you? The exchange of dialogue between me and various kids in the fifth generation went well. I gained a lot of insight into the structure of the fifth generation, the hierarchy, and the divide. Aikika was particularly the most interesting person to converse with. As I expected, her and the kid I laid out, Takuya, were the top rankers in this generation and its de facto party leaders. The next few days were almost uneventful. Till it was made clear Yuki was being forced to drop out and my second family was here to pick me up for the week. I explained the whole situation to Kyo and Shuru without the knowledge of the instructors. They were out of the room during a sparring round between the three of us, and I mouthed out what was about to happen while interchanging languages with each word. But my efforts were proven to be absolutely pointless, as that man came into the classroom and told them I would be going into the outside world on a bi-weekly one-week basis. Kiyotaka. Shuru. Good luck. I received a small nod in return for my words from Shuru and a small, very minute show of acknowledgement from Kiyotaka. Better than nothing. I am really going to have to teach him to fix that. Being escorted out the facility, I was met by a man with black hair and blue eyes along with a woman who had pink hair and blue eyes just like Milam. It was Veldanava and Lucia, the people who would act as my parents in this life. In return for a favor. Velda, after this I swear I will beat your ass if the request is dumb ass shit. Professor Ayanokoji. Is this the boy Rimuru? He certainly looks as intelligent as you had mentioned. Veldanava, your acting is shit. Less than, I agree. Greater than. Yes, this is Rimuru. He is 8 years old as of recently. He has already completed any and all schooling subjects till college level. Studied in philosophy, calligraphy, and tea ceremony. He can also play a few instruments. Ah, he really is adorable seeing him in person. His smile, it's so warm, and his eyes are so pretty. I am almost envious of how silky his hair looks. Velda dear, I would love to adopt him. That man looked at me quizzically after Lucia said I had a warm smile. He definitely was perplexed at how I could smile like this, and also threatened to take his life not even a few days prior. I agree. I will sign the paperwork. So kid, would you introduce yourself with your full name? Hello sir and madam. My name is Ayanokoji Rimuru. My surname being Ayanokoji and my given name Rimuru. I hope to get along well with the two of you. If you would be so kind as to tell me your names and what I may refer to you as, it would be appreciated. My, how well spoken. Well, little Rimuru, my name is Lucia Nava and this gentleman here is my husband Velda Nava. I won't force you, but I'd love it if you called me mom. Velda, you had Nava as your last name, seriously. You could have taken Tempest or a new last name just for this life, but you decided to split your name in half. I am never letting this down after this timeline ends. As my wife said, I'm Velda Nava and you can just call me Dad comfortably if you wish. After all, Professor Ayano Koji shared the details of your relationship and I see no problems treating you as my own. Velda's words were true to who he is. He has no problem with me being his friend, brother, or even his son. No matter what, at the end of the day the both of us look at the other as an equal. It probably helps the fact that I had taken the role of his father before. We really have an odd relationship, don't we? But what can two literal gods do if not have a complex relationship? I know he'll always have my back and I will his. He can be an idiot sometimes, but he's a good dude who just cares deeply for his family and friends. Admittedly, his methods are sometimes shit. Well then, Mom, Dad, please take care of me. I genuinely smiled. This smile was by no means forced. I was genuinely happy to have Velda and Lucia with me. Just as I have Seal and Ozza always with me, but right now, in this moment, I'm glad during this life I will be able to proudly call them my family. Though I am not excited for if I ever have to explain this to Milam or Veldora, Velgrind, and Velzard. Let's hope that it never comes to that. We already had business to get to. I had no intention of taking my work slowly. I was going to have everything ready to start rolling as soon as possible. And to do that, I needed attention and